Good afternoon, and welcome to our continuing series, Interviews with Disciples and Devotees. Today, we are once again with our brother, Kittu Reddy, and the subject is the ideal of human unity. Welcome, Kittu. We are on Chapter 3.
Chapter 3, towards the end of Chapter 3.
Good.
But to many of you who are new, I will just introduce this book. Now, this book was written in the years 1915 to 1918, 1 year after the First World War broke out. Now, you see, this is a unique thing about Aurobindo, that when the biggest war that the world had seen till then was taking place, and war is the crudest manifestation of disunity, he is writing a book on unity. I mean, people have been surprised that how was he living in some kind of peculiar optimism? Was he not realistic? So that is number one. Number two is that Aurobindo was neither optimistic, he was very realistic, but he also knew that this process of world unity is inevitable because it is nature that is working towards that. It might be delayed, but when nature has decided to do a certain thing, it is bound to happen. That is point number 2. And the point number 3 is that we human beings, to progress, there are 2 methods. One is positive aspiration, seeking for a higher light. Another is getting blows and kicks which will waken you up to improve and progress yourself. Unfortunately, both in individual and collective life, individual of course depends on each one, but in collective life we have made giant steps towards progress after a catastrophic event. So, if you look, you will see that in 1910 the world was colonized. 3 or 4 powerful nations, Britain, France, Spain and Portugal, had the rest of the world almost in its pocket, right? And they exploited it to the maximum ability that they could. Evidently, it was not fair. It was not just. So nature had to create a circumstance by which man will be shaken. And this very unpleasant circumstance came in 1914. Before that there were wars. But this was a world war, because all the colonies had to contribute to the war effort. Had to. There was no choice. India had to send almost 1 million soldiers to fight in Africa and in different parts of the world. And all other countries that were under the colonies had to fight for their mother country, what they call the mother country, right? But it was very painful. And as a result of that terrible pain, the leaders of the world, of mankind, said we must not allow this to happen again. So they created in 1919 an organization called the League of Nations to ensure peace and justice throughout the whole world. But it was made up only of 50 countries. Today in the world there are approximately 200 countries. Now 50 countries controlling the world's future and destiny is evidently not very fair. So on the day that it was formed, in the next month itself, Aurobindo wrote that the League of Nations is bound to fail. But the very fact that you have made an attempt, that is the positive part. Because once you have made an attempt to become more harmonious and progressive, it can't stop there. It will fail, it will start again. So from that was the positive thing. The negative thing was that it was made up only of 50 countries and no decision could be taken because all 50 countries had a veto. If one person says no, it is no. You can't have a collective life where everybody has to agree on everything. The result was that there was an inevitable failure. But two very positive things, the very effort at bringing about peace, and there were areas where they really contributed. World Health Organization, International Labour Organization, preserving the sites of heritage sites all over the world. These were not political. There everybody cooperated. But where it came to politics and economics, man does not come easily to a harmony. So it failed. And the funny thing is, the natural thing is that when a disease has to be cured, very often, both on the individual and collective plane, the disease has to be carried to its utmost point. Till then, I got a little cold, I'm not bothered. But when you find that the body is not capable of it, then you are bothered. So this disease of colonialism re-awoke in the form of Hitler. What did Hitler want to do? He wanted to colonize the whole world under him. Britain and France wanted to colonize Asia, Africa and South America. They didn't bother about Europe. But Germany wanted to bring England and France and everybody else under its control. Now that is something which is totally unacceptable for them. But this is really the same disease carried to its maximum point. And inevitably England and France reacted because Germany conquered Poland and then was moving towards France. And if they had delayed, inevitably England would have been the next, and then, the whole of Europe would have been annexed. So carrying the disease to its maximum point led to a greater war. Because this time not only will the colonies involved as before, but this time the weapons were far more powerful, far more destructive. And the ultimate victory of the Allies was by dropping 2 atom bombs in 1945. Hiroshima and Nagasaki were concrete examples of that, right? What happened as a result of that? United Nations. You see, so we have to learn the hard way, unfortunately. So we created the United Nations. The United Nations is still there. It has done very good things. But again, I feel that in the areas of politics and economics much better, but politics still not quite satisfactory. What do you think? Do you think that the United Nations has been able to solve the problems of the world?
I feel that, especially since the
A little louder.
Since the United Nations is located in the New York City, which is an American city, so United States has little extra control over the procedures and proceedings of the UN.
Because they are the ones who contribute the most,
Yes.
they are the richest country, they have the money, and inevitably they look at their interests first rather than the world's interests. So, the question now which Aurobindo raises in the last chapter, which was written in 1950, is twofold. Does the United Nations have to be replaced by a more harmonious body, which is effective body rather? Or can we keep the United Nations but change a little bit its structure? He suggests that today there are 5 permanent Security Council members. He suggests that it should be enlarged. And India has very recently suggested 13 or 14 permanent members with vetoes for more than 1, 2 or 3 at the same time. See, in order to make it a little more democratic. So if it succeeds, and India has put its weight behind it, that we want an enlarged Security Council, you can't have all 200 members deciding. Nothing will happen. It will be only talk. So the number also has to be fixed, 13 or 15 or 14. And then even now there are non-permanent members every 2 years. So that can continue. So it will be probably 25 with 12 or 13 permanent members. So it's an evolutionary process. The whole question is, do we need another shock? Or can we be intelligent enough? You answer. Speak out. What do you think? You need another shock?
Hope not. Enough words.
No, this is your hope. But what is your vision? What do you think will happen? Hope, everybody hopes not. But
We cannot afford
Huh?
one more shock. We already have created a huge shock for the earth through the climate problems. We cannot handle one more war because everybody has
because there will be no winner.
everybody has now terrible.
That's why I said
labels.
no winner, all losers.
Yes.
So that is the main thing that is holding us back today. This threat of total destruction. But that is not enough. There has to be an inner content of where we learn to work together harmoniously, peacefully, creating a new world where there is justice, as Aurobindo says. Total justice is not possible, but avoidable injustice should be removed, and all human beings should be given the opportunity. All nations, collectivities, individuals should be given the opportunity to grow according to their nature, what we call in India according to their Swadharma, right? Now that is a little futuristic. Again, my question to you is that do you think that we are moving in that direction? Slowly?
Yeah, we are moving in that direction.
Huh?
Yep, we are moving in the right direction, in the positive way.
I agree because the support that I see, especially for Aurobindo, it definitely, I mean,
Aurobindo is the future of the world. If Aurobindo succeeds, the world succeeds. And Aurobindo will succeed. It might take, as Mother said, 50 years or 100 years, but the direction is very clear. There are problems, and in an endeavor of this very high idealism, the higher the ideal, the more the problems. Small ideals, small problems. So, I do believe that with a little modification of the United Nations, much more important is with the inner growth of mankind, and that I believe is already in process. And there are two reasons for it. One is the external reason. Today, any event that happens in any part of the world affects some country or the other in a different way. Somewhere in Catalonia, Spain, there is some problem. Immediately, in India, there are people who are demanding separation. They are using that. So today, the world is so interdependent and so interconnected that nothing happens in one part of the world which does not affect somebody else. That is point number one. That is on the ground level, practical. On the higher level, I am quite convinced, it is very subjective, that spirituality is coming into the forefront everywhere. And that is where India will have to play a very categorical, distinct role. Because not that men are not spiritual all over the world, everywhere there is spirituality. But India is the one country where spirituality is so deeply rooted that even the average man, uneducated, simple, he has a little belief and faith in that higher power. He believes that there is a higher power. And that higher power will save us from future destruction, unhappiness, etc., etc. I believe that this has already started now again in Europe. In Europe, after the 17th and 18th century, reason became the highest instrument. Nothing above reason. And that has done some very positive things, but it has also done some negative things. And the negative thing is that it has closed your doors to religion and spirituality. And there is a tendency today all over the world, including here, that reject religion. Aurobindo says, don't reject religion, raise religion. In the human cycle, there is a whole chapter where he says religion is the first starting point towards that higher power. But it is mixed up with rituals and narrowness and many other things. So don't give up the thing. Raise the thing. Raise it to a higher level. And then we enter into what is called true spirituality. And I believe that in a very indirect way, and Modi has been very clever in that point of view, June 21st is known as the
Yoga Day.
International Yoga Day, signed by 195 countries, which means everybody. At the beginning they will start yoga as Hatha Yoga, pranayam, stretching, this, right? But then when they start, their curiosity increases, they begin to realize that yoga means something more and something more. It means self-control, self-mastery, self-realization. Right? So this is a very indirect way, and so it was a very good political move to make June 21st as the International Yoga Day. So these are the steps by which we are moving forward, and inevitable success. The third one is that I don't want to talk too much about it, but that is my faith, and I don't know what about you, that since the supermind has descended, the supramental force, I have not seen it, I don't know what it is, but I know that both Mother and Aurobindo have spoken about it, and that now the world will move at a much faster pace towards harmony, peace, progress, understanding, growth in every possible way. Now, if you have any questions, you can ask, otherwise I'll come back to the chapter. Any comments? Any questions?
Can you briefly describe
A
what is
little louder.
supermind? Can you briefly describe what is supermind?
No, you see, very honestly, you can describe something which you know.
Okay.
I don't know what is supermind.
Okay.
I have read as to what is supermind. I can tell you what I have read. The supermind is a power. You see, first of all, there is the physical, the vital, the mental, the subconscious, the inconscient, and then above the mental there are the higher powers, intuition, revelation, then there is overmind. And above that, Aurobindo believed that there is a power called the supermind, which was mentioned in the Vedas, which they did not even try because they thought it's too difficult. Now, by definition, if the supermind manifests itself in an individual, it is the surest sign of perfection. Because in the supermind, everything is perfect. But it being there is not enough. We have to be identified with that consciousness. Right? And so when we are identified with the supramental consciousness, we become perfect. Perfect is always a relative term. What is perfect today, after 10 years, is not as perfect as it should be. It is always progressive. So if you understand it from that point of view, you will realize that the supermind has descended on earth in 1956 on February 28th, I think, or 29th. 29th. I remember the day because mother was taking a class in the playground. Right under the map she was sitting. And then after the class there was a meditation. And when she opened her eyes, everything was normal. She remarked something to this effect, exact words I don't know, that I thought that everybody will be flat because the supermind had descended. Nobody was aware. Only 3 persons in this world were aware. I think mother had promised someone. So he was in the train. He got, I didn't mention the name deliberately. He was in the train and he got a very clear indication. When he asked mother, mother said yes. Somebody in Africa. And I don't know who the third person.
Vidyut's father. Vidyut's father.
Who?
Vidyut's father.
Oh, I see, I didn't know that. So anyway, even today.
And Basu, Aurobindo Basu told me.
It might be 3 or 4 persons. So they got the awareness. I mean, they knew that something had happened, which they could not express or could not hold on to, right? So anyway, this is how things have developed. Now we have started this book, and since man is always living in a collectivity, unless you are living in the Himalayas or in the forests, you are always living in a collectivity. Agreed, no? Without exception. And always in a collectivity there has to be a head. Even in the family, when there are differences, there is a head. In an institution, there is a head. In a nation, there is a head. Elected or selected, that is a second matter. But there is somebody who decides and you better obey it. Correct or not? Everywhere in the world, a collectivity means a head. That head is called in political terms the state. So the state in the ashram are the trustees. The state in Tamil Nadu is the chief minister. The state in India is the prime minister, and so on. And then there is something called a state idea. Now, what is the business of the state, or what do they think is the business? They will control, organize the collective life of the collectivity. Now, here there are two concepts. One is that we will supervise and have a general control over everything that is going on, but we will give you a reasonable amount of freedom. That word reasonable is very flexible. But anyway, a reasonable amount. And the other one says that no, we'll control everything. You will have no freedom. We will decide everything for you.